Welcome to a CNY Wrestling podcast. This is part 1 of the 2016 to 2017 Class B previews.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another CNY Wrestling podcast and another 2016-2017 Section 3 Class Preview. We have concluded the Division 1 side of the class previews, which included Class A and Class AA, and we are now ready to move on with the Division 2 side of the class previews, including Class B, Class C, and Class D. They all will be covered in the following weeks leading up to the start of the season, and we are kicking that off by covering Camden, Central Valley, Chittenango, and Courtland today. In later videos, we will cover the other Class B teams of Holland Patton, Homer, Marcellus, Mexico, Oneida, Phoenix, South Jefferson, and VVS. But for now, it is part 1 of the Class B previews, and it starts right now. As I mentioned just now, Class B has 12 teams within it, and they are Camden, Central Valley, Chittenango, Courtland, Holland Patton, Homer, Marcellus, Mexico, Oneida, Phoenix, South Jefferson, and VVS. The South Jefferson program is actually combined now with the Sandy Creek program, so that is a combined wrestling program that will still, be taking the lead by South Jefferson and will still be a part of Class B as far as I know. And so when it's time to preview South Jefferson, that is how they will be talked about. But now we'll get into Class B a little bit as a whole. The Class B portion of Section 3 has been the host to some of the greatest talent Central New York Wrestling has seen in recent years. Names like Theo Powers, Alex Herringshaw, Trevor Allard, Jacob Wilson, Laken Cook, Daniel Smith, Will Hilliard, and plenty of others have been synonymous with Class B in just the past 3 years. So this group of 12 teams doesn't just have some of the best talent in Section 3, but all of New York State as well. Just last year, Section 3 had great Class B talents like Powers and Herringshaw, as well as Austin O'Reilly, Brad Dietz, Brett Finch, Hunter Howland, and Holden Pelton that are all now lost to graduation. But that just shows the incredible state-level talent that is within Class B just about every year. That's a lot of talk about the past, though, and we're here to talk about the very new future that is the 2016-17 New York State High School Wrestling season. All 12 teams are bringing some form of talent to the winter, but the 3 teams that have dominated the top of the Class B picture in the last decade are the early favorites to be bringing the most. Those 3 are Phoenix, South Jefferson, and Central Valley, who have split the last 10 Class B team championships among themselves. Phoenix has the most in that span with 7 titles, but they've only grabbed one of those in the last 4 years, as South Jeff and CVA have topped the points in recent times, with the Spartans winning the title in 2013 and the Thunder taking the gold in 2014 and 2016. Will those 3 teams be the top contenders again this season, or will one of the other 9 teams in the class perform the best when we are in February? Let's start taking a look at the answer to that question by beginning with Camden. We kick off this preview with the Camden Blue Devils, which is a team that is almost always in the discussion when it comes to the top teams in Class B every year. Just last season, the Blue Devils added another great year to their string of solid winters by making the semifinals of the Section 3 dual meet tournament and placing top 3 at the class tournament and being in the top 10 of the Section 3 tournament for the 3rd year in a row, in which they haven't been lower than 7th. So Camden has proven to be a solid dual meet team as well as an individual team, which is something that not a lot of teams can always say that they excel at both. This is in large part to a roster that rarely has any weak spots. Camden wrestlers are notoriously a tough match for anyone that they take the mat against, with wrestlers like Colby Johnson, Michael Bristol, Tiberius Harder, Hunter Williams, Daniel Alberico, and Hunter Holliday wrestling as the core of Camden. I couldn't argue with that idea. Just look at Alberico and Holliday, who appear to be Camden's main seniors on the roster. Alberico has been 4th in the section 2 years in a row. Holliday has been top 4 in the class in his last 2 attempts, and they were at 99 and then 126 as recent as last year. So he's done it at 2 pretty different weight classes. That leaves Johnson, who had 26 wins and took 5th in Class B as a freshman. That leaves Bristol, who had 35 wins, has been top 5 in Class B the last 2 years. That leaves Harder, who also had 35 wins, was a runner-up in Class B last year, and took 4th in Section 3. And then there's Williams, who had 33 wins, was 3rd in Class B and 5th in Section 3. And then there was also a Class B champion in Stefan Hildenbrandt, who won the title at 160 pounds. And they're all underclassmen. That's a scary group of underclassmen, and it gives off the feeling that Camden will continue to be a force in years to come. I think this is especially true if all the aforementioned guys can improve on their already great performances from last year, and because of the recent addition of junior Devin Coleman from Oneida, who had 28 wins, was 4th in Class B and 5th in Section 3 at 99 pounds. And I believe we will also see the return of Riley Gerber, who is a former Class B and Section 3 placer. So we could realistically be seeing more than just one Camden wrestler in the Section 3 finals very soon, and we could see Camden return to some success in the Section 3 dual meet tournament as well. They have a very talented roster. With that, I have them ranking in 4th for my projected Class B team rankings. That is a spot lower than where they were the year before, but by no means do I think that they get any worse the year before. They'll be right there with that 6 they had in Section 3 when that tournament comes. Like I just talked about their roster, just loads of incredible talent and lots of tough guys on the roster. So Camden, their future looks very bright. And that takes us to Central Valley. And with Central Valley, I have to think that they are the early favorites for the 2017 Class B Team Championship. Central Valley has a roster filled with huge potential, so it is hard to argue that the Thunder don't look all set to repeat as Class B champions. Like I said, they were champions last year in 2016. I mean, how can you argue when there's 2 Section 3 champions returning to the squad, and one of them is also a New York State champion, and the other is a New York State runner-up that lost his finals match by only 1 point? The champion is John Charles, who was a junior, and the runner-up is Tanner Cook, who was a senior. Charles was the Section 3 champ at 99 pounds, and Cook was the Section 3 champ at 138. And they're going to look to wreak more havoc on Section 3 this upcoming season. They're going to have lots of help from talented wrestlers that stretch all the way from junior high to juniors and seniors like Charles and Cook are. And it begins with the Bush brothers. Merrick and Mason were members of Central Valley's varsity roster last year, and they were just 7th graders. But despite that, both guys fit in very well with Charles down at 99 pounds. Merrick impressed with a 3rd at the Center States League tournament and picked up a number of solid wins. Mason had one of the best 7th grade seasons in recent memory with a Center States League championship, a 3rd in Class B, and a 6th in Section 3. So keep an eye on these guys to become mainstays in the Section 3 title picture, just like you should do with Thunder sophomores Eric Bardo and Hunter Schott. Bardo placed at 5 individual tournaments last year, including a 5th at Class B, and Schott had a dream freshman season that culminated with 40 wins and a 3rd place Section 3 finish in a very tough 132-pound bracket. I remember watching Schott at the Section 3 tournament, and he looked incredible. He took the match with the top seed at his bracket down to the wire. He really turned it on at the end of the year. So while Bardo and Schott have 2 more years to be successful as Thunder wrestlers, Colin Treen, David Bardo, and CJ Wallace have just 1 more season in the light blue singlet, as they are also seniors along with Tanner Cook. They'll likely make the most of it too. Treen is a former Class C champion and a 2-time Section 3 placer. Bardo has had 20-plus wins every year since he was an 8th grader and has never not wrestled at the Section 3 tournament. Treen has also never not wrestled at the Section 3 tournament. And Walls is a 3-time New York State qualifier and was even 4th in 2015. He's one of the best pound-for-pound wrestlers within Section 3 Division 2. We also should give shout-outs to Gunnar Holmberg, Trent Ingraham, and Josh Klossner, because they all placed in Class B last season and won 20-plus matches, but they get overshadowed by the rest of CVA's roster because there's just so much talent throughout it. And so with all the talent that I just mentioned, some of the best pound-for-pound guys in the section with Cook, with Charles, with Schott, with Walls, and then you have the exceptional talent right behind that with guys like Treen, the 2 Bardos, the 2 Bushes. You I would have to think that they are the favorites to repeat as Class B team champions, and that's why I have them first in my projected Class B team rankings. We'll now move on to Chittenango. With them, I hate to start things off on a negative note, but I think many people would agree that Chittenango has seen better days. Just because at the start of this decade, Chittenango sent at least one wrestler to the New York State Tournament 3 years in a row, and they brought home 4 place finishers from the state tournament in total by having 2 placers in 2011 and 2012. Fast forward 5 years later to now, though, and Chittenango isn't quite having the same success. But that doesn't mean all hope is lost for the Bears when it comes to this upcoming season. And I actually think it means quite the opposite because Chittenango is losing just one main senior from their roster. And at the same time, they return 2 of the most talented juniors in Section 3. Antonio Coutry and Connor Fredericks really impressed a lot of people as sophomores last year. They both made it to the finals of the Class B tournament and placed inside the top 5 in Section 3. Coutry was 5th at 220 pounds. Fredericks was 4th at 170. They both also totaled 35 wins on the year, according to CNYWrestling.com, and the 2 of them should very much be seen as threats to win as many or more matches this time around as juniors. In fact, Fredericks is the highest returning placer from 170 pounds, so the guys that took 1st, 2nd, and 3rd all graduated, and Coutry is the 2nd highest at 220. So it's yet to be known if they'll both return at those weights, but they'll likely have improved nonetheless and have even more success this upcoming season. The same can be said for Corey Fredericks. The older Fredericks on the team really showed improvement from his sophomore to junior season. He got knocked out of the Class B tournament in his first match 2 years ago, but he came back last winter to take 5th at 182 pounds and upped his season win total to an impressive 25 victories. So with this trio of wrestlers and a majority of the 2015-16 roster not lost to graduation, things could be a little more on the up and up for the Bears in the future. I think that Coutry and Fredericks are 2 exceptional pound-for-pound talents within the class, and I have Chittenango coming in 10th, which drops them a spot from last year that they were in Class B, which I think is kind of a fair assessment just because they don't quite have as deep of a roster as some of the other teams in the class. But Coutry and Fredericks could absolutely be considered as class favorites and sectional contenders. And then Corey Fredericks could be looking to repeat as a Class B placer and earn more points when it comes to tournament time. So Chittenango, like I said, they could still be looking on the up and up for the future. We'll now move into the 4th and final team of this Class B preview, the Courtland Purple Tigers. As talked about in my interview with Courtland graduate Isaiah Brookman, who has been helping me with these previews and the rankings that I do as Section 3 wrestler on the forums, the Purple Tigers had quite the up and down season last winter. They were under a new head coach for the first time in decades. The program was still recovering from the tragic loss of the legendary Gary Dillingham, and the team was involved in 8 dual meets that were decided by 6 points or less. So they had a couple gaps in their lineup, and despite the points they had to give up through forfeits, they still managed to bring lots of dual meets down to the wire. I wanted to mention before I got too far into this that I've heard that Courtland has decided, or at least considering, to name their dual meet tournament in honor of Dillingham. I know they have named their wrestling room in honor of him, which I think is a great gesture. And it was a tragic loss of Dillingham back in 2015. But Courtland has been recovering ever since, and it's nice to see the gesture of honoring him with the dual meet tournament in his name. Now we'll move on to some wrestlers to take note of on the Courtland roster. 2 of those, 2 Section 3 place finishers from last year that are returning this year are seniors Keegan Brown and Dakota Miller. Miller has been a huge part of Courtland's success as their key heavyweight the past 3 seasons, and he has really turned a corner. He really turned a corner last year. He had 38 wins, took 3rd in Class B and 4th in Section 3. Brown, meanwhile, has quite the story himself because he is placed in both Section 3, he was 6th last season, and he's also placed in Section 4. He was 3rd as a freshman, 4th as an 8th grader. He just recently also crossed the 100-win plateau, so that was a great career milestone for him. And I remember at the Section 3 tournament last season, Brown was fighting a knee injury that he sustained either at the Class B tournament or a little before that. And I remember he was having lots of trouble with it, but he still managed to earn a pin in wrestlebacks that secured him a spot on the podium. Even though he didn't wrestle his next two matches, he was still able to automatically qualify for sixth place at 132 pounds. Two other seniors that joined Brown and Miller as Courtland's key wrestlers are Dane George and James Barbarito. George is also over 100 career wins and has wrestled on the team since 7th grade, and in his 5 years, he's missed placing at the class tournament just one time. Barbarito, on the other hand, has shown some promise with the increased varsity matches he's had in the last couple of years, which is evident by his place finishes at the Phoenix Round Robin and Leo J. Salmon Memorial Tournament. Those are regular season tournaments. When he went to wrestle in the postseason at the Class B tournament, he drew the eventual champion at his weight class. So if he can continue to improve and get a better draw this next time around, he could be joining Brown, Miller, and George as Class B placers that I would expect them all to be this upcoming season. With that, rounding out this preview, I have Courtland in 9th for the Class B team rankings. That increases their spot from last year. I think that Miller and Brown are realistic favorites for class champions. They should both be back on the podium in Section 3. George has come close to having some sectional tournament success. This could finally be the year that he has some, and he should continue to have success in Class B, and Barbarito could also add some more points for Courtland when it comes to the tournament. So that's going to wrap it up for part 1 of the 2016-17 Class B preview. Next video, we will be covering Holland Patent, Homer, Marcellus, and Mexico. So make sure to check that out. I thank you for checking this one out. And as always, I hope to see you next time.
You just heard about him, so check out Central Valley wrestler Tanner Cook's interview with CNYWrestling.com in the CNY Wrestling forums. Check back on October 21st for part 2 of the Class B previews.